Hello everyone and welcome back to Age Nagash, which is a channel dedicated to Age Sigma. Now in this video we're going to look at the part 2 army video for the Slaves of Darkness, and this is going to be looking at their units. So the Chaos Marauders is what we're going to start with, because we're going to go from sort of like the bottom tier to the sort of like more elite infantry that the Slaves of Darkness have. And I say infantry but I mean units in general, because obviously they have knights and so on. So anyway, going on with the Chaos Marauders, essentially what they are is the sort of most sort of barbarian sort of tribesmen of the Slaves of Darkness. If you picture that, like if you've seen the models, you know what I mean. Sort of Vikingish, but like I say, more sort of barbarian. And they are basically the bottom of the path to glory. So this is where every aspiring champion of chaos starts, essentially. And yes, so this is what they are. And then looking at what they are like in the game, the minimum size unit you can take is 20, and that will cost you 120 points. And the maximum size unit you can take of these guys is 40, and that's going to cost you 200 points. So if you take them in a unit of 40, essentially you're saving 40 points there. So not a bad points reduction there for the, I think it's like Mass Legion sort of discount it's called. So what are they like? So let's have a look at their war scroll. So they've got a movement of 6 inches, a 6+ save, bravery 5, and 1 wound. So of course 6 for save, you know, isn't particularly good, but it's good that they've got a save, because bear in mind that these guys are only costing you 120 points for 20 models. So if my maths is correct, there's only 6 points per model if you look at it that way, so they're really cheap. So having a 6+ save, yeah, that's good, we'll take that. Bravery 5, it could be worse, it could easily be Bravery 4, like a lot of the Skaven stuff is. So yeah, Bravery 5 isn't bad. 1 wound, you know, obviously that's to be expected. And like I say, movement 6, that's a good movement. Okay, and then looking at the melee weapons, so you're going to have a choice of 2 here. So you can go for the Barbarian Axe or the Barbarian Flail. Because if I just read the description of the unit, it says the unit of Chaos Marauders wields either a Barbarian Flail or a Barbarian Axe. Some units of Marauders also carry Darkwood shields, so you can either choose the Barbarian Axe or the Barbarian Flail. So looking at the Barbarian Axe first, it's got a 1 inch range, 1 attack, 4 to hit, 4 to wound, no rend, and 1 damage. And then looking at the Flail, it's got a 1 inch range, 1 attack, a 5 to hit, a 3 to wound, no rend, and 1 damage. So just looking at this right now, I personally prefer the axe, just because, yes, it's to wound characteristic is a 4 rather than a 3, but having it to hit into wound characteristic of a 4 and a 4 for this unit, like I say, where each model is costing you like 6 points essentially, that's really quite good. Yeah, sure, they don't rend and only 1 damage, but that's not what these guys are about. They're, you know, generally they're getting pretty good attack characteristic here, if I'm honest, compared to a lot of other units that cost the same in points. Now, why I prefer the axe more than the flail is just because the to hit characteristic of a 5 on the flail, as soon as the enemy makes you -1 to hit, now you're hitting on 6s, and then these guys, if you were hoping for these guys to get damage through, it's really going to be really disheartened really with that. So that is my own feeling there. It's better to have a more equal, you know, to hit and to win characteristic of a 4 and a 4 rather than a 5 and a 3. Okay, and then moving on to their abilities. So firstly we look at the Marauder Chieftain. So the leader of this unit is a Marauder Chieftain. He makes 2 attacks rather than 1. Yep, so that's standard, that's good. Get an extra attack rather than getting like +1 or something to your hit for the champion. It's just a lot easier when you're rolling the dice. Icon Bearer, models in this unit may be Icon Bearers. Icon Bearers bear either a damned icon or a tribal banner. Okay, so we'll get to that in a moment. And then drummer, models in this unit can be drummers. If the unit includes any drummers, add 1 to its run and charge roll. So obviously getting +1 to run is good, because it means that you can potentially run up to, you know, 7 inches if you're lucky. And then what it also means is that, you know, if you're the typical sort of 3 inches away from the enemy when you go to plan to charge them, because you know you have to be, because that's, you know, the distance of the combat. So many times it happens when you're 3 inches away from the enemy and you roll a double 1. And I mean, so many times it happens, you know, obviously it doesn't happen too often, but when it does, it can really sting. So for these guys, as long as they're 3 inches away from the enemy, that will never happen, as they're always going to be able to charge 3 inches, as long as the enemy doesn't have some sort of mischief way of minusing your charging. So then going into the first sort of main ability is the Barbarian Hordes. So roll a dice. Before a unit of Chaos Marauders piles in, add 1 to the roll if the unit includes 20 or more models. If the result is 4 or more, Add 1 to the result of any hit rolls for the units attacked until the end of the phase. If the result is a 6 or more, add 1 to the result of any wound rolls as well. Okay, so what I will say about this is I think it just backs up my opinion that the axe is better than the flail, just because like I say, that's a pretty good average to hit him to win cast, just obviously being a 4 and a 4 for the axe. And the potential on this, if you max out your unit, obviously, being able to get +1 to hit and +1 to wound, so making it a 3 and 3, rather than if it was the flail and you got +1 to hit and wound, it would be a 4 and a 2. And I think if you're getting a 2, obviously you're really lucky if you're getting that, but let's say they've got another way to get +1 to wound, it means that they're not going to benefit from that. That is obviously really situational, but for me, I just prefer the more reliable, I think I'd call it, 4s and 4s to hit with the axe. Okay, and then going on to the next one, so Darkwood Shield. So units carrying Darkwood Shields have a save characteristic of a 5+ rather than a 6+. That is really good. As far as I can see so far, please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, I don't know why you wouldn't take the shields. I really see no reason, because it doesn't look like you can take the axes and the flails instead, so always give them the shield, in all honesty, from what I can see. And then so yeah, a 5+ save, yeah, that is really good. Like we say, this is a really cheap unit, so even a 6+ save was good that they've got a save. Now they're getting a 5+, and that's not like a 5+ in the combat phase of shooting. That is just a generic 5+ save, which is really good. These guys, they're in cover, and then it goes to 4 up, and it's a really cheap unit, guys. So anything that makes it anything relatively good is just maximising on the capital really of the unit. So, and then you've got the damned icon, because remember we said there was 2 you can take, and this means that you can reroll hit rolls of 1 from models in a unit that contains damned icons. Okay, and then going on to the next one, which is Tribal Banner. If this unit includes any tribal banners, and 1 to the bravery of all of its models. So firstly, what I will say is, obviously this unit hasn't got the best bravery, but the damned icon is better, because getting rerolls to hit rolls of 1 for models in this unit that contain any damned icons, that's really, really big, because like we say, you've got, like I keep on saying, a good to hit and to win characters for these guys. There's ways to +1 to hit to it, getting rerolls of 1 to hit, it just makes it even better. And then with a tribal banner, getting add 1 to bravery, yeah, it's good, but if you had to pick between the one, I'd say the damned icon for sure, because +1 to bravery, like I always say, is good, guys, but it's not going to help you out as much as the damned icon. However, if you've got a unit of, well, any size really, you can, and you've got the models, you can field the damned icon and the tribal banner, and reap from both benefits from what I can see. Okay, and then it goes on to talk about the Mark of Chaos. So if you wish, when setting up this unit, you can pick one of the following keywords assigned to it for the duration of the battle: Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, or Slaanesh. So the important thing to mention here is that this is going to be on a lot of the War Scrolls, so I don't really want to go in depth with it too much when I talk about every single one, otherwise I'll be here for days. So what this means is that instead of playing, I mentioned this a bit yesterday in my sort of unmarked discussion when I looked at the Allegiance abilities for the Slaves of Darkness, it's basically, instead of making them undivided and unmarked, you can pick a Chaos God for them to choose from, and then this means, like, if you pick the Khorne keyword for this unit to have, means if you want to include a Bloodscrater in your army, as an ally, a lot of your army is now going to benefit from the Bloodscrater's Portal Skull ability, which can make a huge impact. Or the Nurgle keyword means that there's going to be a lot of spells and abilities that the Mad King and Nurgle have, what are going to benefit the Slaves of Darkness. So it's really something important and good to look in to when you're thinking about building your army and what you really want to go for if you want to align it with a certain god. And like I've mentioned before, you can play Slaves of Darkness unmarked, and it can be quite cool and a bit unique, but they really are going to be better if they are aligned to a certain god. And of course, you can take this unit as well as pretty much most units in the Slaves of Darkness, there's only a few exceptions, into any of the Chaos God armies, Blades of Khorne, Disciples of Tzeentch, Mad King Nurgle, and is it Host of Slaanesh, I think they're called at the moment. It's a little bit unsure about them because we're waiting for them to get an update essentially. Okay, so now we've got that out of the way, talk about the Mark of Chaos. And like I say, it can be a huge difference, because like I say, if you've got a Bloodscrater in the army and they are Khorne, it's giving them an extra attack from the banner, it's making them not do battleshot tests, and then if they're not doing battleshot tests, it really means if you had to choose between the damned icon and tribal banner, getting that add 1 to bravery is not really so much important anymore. Okay, and then going into the keywords, so we've got Chaos, Mortal, Slaves of Darkness, Chaos, Marauder, so pretty straightforward there. Obviously important ones to note, of course they're Chaos, but the Slaves of Darkness, of course, because they are within the army, but Mortal is a key keyword here, because, you know, there's certain abilities that only benefit mortal units. And then their role in match play is that they are, of course, a battle line. So they are, I'd say, a cheap battle line option, because they are, because you get a lot of models for the points. However, you know, you have to take them in a minimum size units of 20, so they can't be like a, you know, a 10-man unit of, I don't know, I think like Ungors, which are like 60 points just to set on your back objective, just to literally have models on the back of the board, just to hold an objective that's just going to stay there. They can't really fill that role in too well, but they're only 120 points, so it's not too bad. And then sticking with the Marauders, we've then got the Chaos Marauder Horsemen. Now, cunning are the outriders of Chaos Hordes, and skilled with javelin, axe and flail. Many hail from horse tribes that pound the wastes of the mortal realms. Their command over the ill-tempered steeds they ride is such they can hurl their deadly throwing weapons as they charge, run down their foes, and dart back out for another volley with shocking speed. So that's just a little bit of their lore there. You know, they are essentially just marauders, but mounted, and they are going to cost you in the game. It's 90 points for 5 of them, because 5 is the minimum size you can take, or the maximum you can take is 30, and that is for 480 points. You are going to get yourself a discount there if you take the max size unit. They're also battle line in the Slaves of Darkness army, so if you do want to keep the Slaves of Darkness army allegiance and so on, they will become battle line, so something worth remembering there. And then let's look at the War Scrolls. So they've got a movement of 12 inches, they've got a 6+ save, they've got bravery 5, 2 wounds. 2 wounds, you know, expected because they are cavalry. Movement 12 is good, you know, but again, expected because they are basically like cavalry. A save of 6+, yeah, that's not great, but you know, like I say, with all these sort of cheap units, at least they've got a save. And bravery 5, yeah, I would have probably have liked that to be bravery 6, just because they are meant to be a bit better than the Marauders on foot, but oh well. And then looking at their weapons, firstly I'm just going to read the description of the unit just so you understand the rules with what weapons you can take. It says a unit of Chaos Marauder Horsemen has 5 or more models. Many units of Marauder Horsemen are armed with barbarian axes, but some prefer to wield barbarian flails. Some units instead carry Marauder javelins, which they can hurl at the foe and use as spears in close combat. Many units also carry Darkwood shields. They ride swift chaos steeds which strike at the enemy with their flailing hooves. Okay, so looking at their weapons, so firstly they've got a missile weapon, which is the javelin, like I just said, so that's pretty good. It's got a 9-inch range, so yes, short-inch range, but it's got 2 attacks, force to hit, force to win, no rend, 1 damage. And then going on to their melee weapons, we've got the barbarian axe, so 1-inch range, 1 attack, force to hit, force to wind, no rend, no damage. And then the barbarian flail, so it's got a 1-inch range, 1 attack, 5 to hit, 3 to wound, and no rend and 1 damage. So the axe and the flail are exactly the same as we see for the Marauders when they're on foot. And then the Marauder javelin, it's got a 2-inch range in combat, it's got a 1 attack, 5 to hit, force to wound, no rend, and 1 damage. And then the Chaos Steed's flailing hooves, it's got a 1-inch range, 2 attacks, force to hit, 5 to wound, 0 rend and 1 damage. So straight away, my favourite out of all of them is going to be the Marauder javelin, just because I know shooting it has been made not as good as it used to be in 2nd edition. However, I think shooting is still very important in the game. I don't think it's nearly as bad as people talk about it, and I think with this unit it's going to be a harassing unit. It's not really meant to charge into combat unless it's charging something which, you know, is similarly not so strong in combat either, you know, just like a weak enemy unit they've got on their back objective. These guys swiftly come around, they can hit them with the spears and then charge into them, that sort of thing there. And I think their shooting attack, I'm surprised it's, you know, 2 attacks with the javelin, force to hit, force to win, no random 1 damage. The only thing, yeah, it's only 9-inch range, but 2 attacks there, it's not bad at all. And the combat stat for it is not bad. It hits on a 5 and wins on a 4, so I don't think that's bad at all. Okay, and then going into their abilities, so the leader of this unit is a Horsemaster. Add 1 to the hit rolls for a Horsemaster. Okay, so this is where you have to start, remember to roll your dice separately, but that means that the Horsemaster, if he's got a javelin, which I'd say is my preferred choice, he now hits on a 3 with the javelin. In combat, he will be hitting on a 4. So yes, that is important to remember. And then the icon bearer. So models in this unit may be icon bearers. Icon bearers bear either a damned icon or a tribal banner. And then it says hornblowers. Models in this unit can be hornblowers. If this unit includes any hornblowers, add 1 to its running charge rolls. I'll explain why that's good, because it means if you're within 3 inches of the enemy, you're automatically getting that charge. And then abilities, Darkwood shield. So units carrying a Darkwood shield have a save of 5+ rather than 6+. It's exactly the same as we've seen for the Marauders on foot. Yeah, that's just a really nice extra ability. It's basically giving them a cover save, or like the old version of Mystic Shield, you know, it's just +1 to the save in all cases in combat and for shooting as well, so that's really good. And then the next ability is Fiend Flight. This unit can shoot and charge even if it retreated in the same turn. Yes, so this is good. This is what I mean by it's a harassing unit. So it shoots, it charges, you know, it shoots a weak enemy unit, it charges the weak enemy unit, and then the next combat round, if you've done the damage you need to, it can retreat out and then shoot and charge something else. And like I say, you only want to charge weak enemy units, but it's got that potential and possibility. And then the damned icon, so you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for units that contain any damned icons. And then the tribal banner, if this unit includes any tribal banners, add 1 to the bravery of all of its models. So this is exactly the same again that we saw for the Marauders on foot. And yep, I think the damned icon's really good. And the tribal banner, yeah, if you know you've got enough banners, definitely chuck one of these in there as well, just to give them bravery 6. And I mean, to be honest, guys, before I was looking at Marauders, I thought going into them, I thought they're not going to be that good. They're just going to be, you know, like your cheapest of the cheap. Just to use for holding your back objectives, just get numbers on the board, that sort of thing. But actually looking at the Marauders, you know, they're not, you know, the best unit in the game, obviously, by any stretch of the imagination, but they're not bad. You know, like Marauders on foot, I thought were pretty good, and then these horsemen are, I'm definitely a fan of them. I definitely think they can be a good harassing unit for sure. And like I say, they're 90 points for 5, so it is maybe a bit expensive compared to other harassing units that other armies have, but I think you're also getting a shooting attack here as well. So, you know, for what I thought these Marauder Horsemen were going to be like, I definitely think they are better than I thought, so I'm happy with that. And then they've got the Mark of Chaos ability as well, so they can choose the Khornzeich or Nurgle or Sinesh keyword. So I mentioned that with the Marauders at the start, so I won't go into that again, but it is really good, of course. And then its keywords has got Chaos, Mortals, Slaves to Darkness, Chaos, Marauder, Horsemen. So obviously important there is the mortal keyword for those abilities that will affect them. Right, okay, so now that we've looked at the like the more basic units of the Slaves to Darkness, let's take it up a notch with the Chaos Warriors. So firstly, important thing to say about the Chaos Warriors is that they are battle line for the army, and that's just generic battle line. So they're also battle line for, you know, you want to take just a general Chaos army. They will cost you 90 points for the minimum size unit, which is 5, and then the maximum size unit is 30 for 480 points. So again, same cost as the Marauder Horsemen, and you will get a discount there if you take them in a unit size of 30, which is their max size, like I say. So yes, that is like how much they're going to cost and stuff in match play. Let's have a little look about what they're like in the lore. So Chaos Warriors, the horn-helmed killers known as Chaos Warriors are legion. Every realm save Azir echoes to the tread of their iron-shod feet and the clangor of their battle they bring. These men have cast everything aside in exchange for eternal war and the promise of power. Some may find the glory they seek, but for most there is only blood, violence and a cruel fate. Okay, so they're pretty cool. They're basically, you know, like dark knights, the sort of thing, like, you know, foot knights. They used to be, like in the old world, used to be a lot more powerful than they are now. And that's not really true. When I say a lot more powerful, I mean there wasn't as many powerful beings in the old world as there is in Age of Sigmar. So, but they are still pretty good. They're basically, look at them as the dark, corrupted liberators, you know. That's sort of the role they play, essentially, in the armies. And then looking at the rules, so they have a 5-inch move, they have 4+ save, they have bravery 6 and 2 wounds. So first is looking at the 5-inch movement. Yes, that's not very far, but they are heavily plated in chaos armor, so can't really blame them too much there. 4+ save, yep, that's good. You know, looking at a liberator stat so far there. Bravery 6, it's a step up from the Chaos Marauders. It's still, you know, not fantastic, but it's a step up, isn't it? So can't really complain there. And 2 wounds, yes, that is nice to see, especially for, I believe they're on 32mm bases, so 2 wounds for those sort of models is very good indeed. Right, now looking at the description of the unit. So some units either wield Chaos hand weapons or halberds and carry a Chaos rune shield. Some units instead give away defense, hefting double-handed Chaos great blades or entering battle with a Chaos hand weapon in each hand. Okay, so now we looked at the description, let's look at the weapons. So you can go for the Chaos hand weapon, so it's got 1 inch range, 2 attacks, freeze the hit, force the wind, no rend, and 1 damage. The Chaos halberd, 2 inch range, 2 attacks, force the hit, force the wound, no rend, and 1 damage. And then the Chaos great blade is 1 inch range, 2 attacks, force the hit, freeze the wind, -1 rend, and 1 damage. Okay, so firstly, with the weapons, what I personally prefer is the Chaos hand weapon and a Chaos rune shield, because we'll get to what the rune shield does later. But essentially what it does, it gives you a 5-up save to mortal wounds that you know, are inflicted onto this unit. So I'm definitely a fan of that, because Chaos Warriors to me are definitely your shield wall for your army. They're really good at, they can be extremely effective. They can get their save down to easily a 4-up save if you roll in 1s. Certain ways you can do it in a Khorne army, especially, you can get them up to a 3-up save rerolled in 1s, and then a 5-up save against mortal wounds. So that's how I look at them. I don't look at them as your heavy hammer to your army. They can be, you know, you can make them pretty offensive, but for me personally, they're definitely a defensive choice for sure. And then going on to their abilities, we've got the standard bearer. So models in this unit may be a standard bearer. If this model is a standard bearer and is in the unit, then you can add 1 to the bravery of all of the unit's models. So yep, that's good. You know, just obviously the standard gives you +1 to bravery, and then your bravery 7. That's pretty good. That means if you lose 1 warrior, you're not doing a battle shock test. So that is good there. And then aspiring champion, the leader of this unit is an aspiring champion. Add 1 to the result of any hit rolls for an aspiring champion. Okay, so that's just something to bear in mind there for when you are rolling the dice, that you are going to roll the champion's dice separately, or you're going to use a special dice for it, maybe a different colour to the rest. And then the Hornblowers, so models in this unit can be Hornblowers. If the unit includes any Hornblower, add 1 to its run and charge roll. So this is the same as we've seen before. It's good, it means you're guaranteed that 3-inch charge if you're away from the enemy. And yeah, that's pretty good. And you know, getting +1 to run means they've got a potential of running 7 inches if you're very lucky. And then the ability, so Chaos Rune Shield. So I've already talked about this, but I will read out the rule. Roll a dice each time this unit suffers a mortal wound. On a 5 or 6, that mortal wound is ignored. So like I said, I do like this. I think it is a very good ability. So pair this up, take the Chaos hand weapons, honestly guys, for the Chaos Warriors. Give them the Rune Shield. Like I say, they're more defensive than offensive for sure, but they're still making 2 attacks with a freeze there, force the wind, no render 1 damage, so not bad there either. It's the same attack characteristic as Liberators, with a sword and shield, and yeah, like they don't have the, you know, the great blade or the grand blade, whatever it's called, but it's still pretty goddamn good and effective, especially how these guys, if we compare them to Liberators, they're on smaller bases, so they're going to be more of them into the fighting. Right, and then the next ability is a Mark of Chaos, so it means that you can give these guys the Khorne Siege or Nurgle Slaanesh keyword when you set up that unit. So I've talked about this already, why it's really good. And then the next ability, Berserk Fury, so Chaos Warriors who wield a blade in each hand batter aside the enemy's defences. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for Chaos Warriors wielding a pair of Chaos hand weapons. So yeah, that's good because you're rerolling 1s, but it's definitely not as good as that Rune Shield. That's, as far as I'm aware, that's honestly my opinion. Especially remember guys, if you're taking the Slaves Darkness Allegiance abilities and you're taking the Khorne one, you're dedicating these guys to Khorne, you're gonna get the rerolls to hit rolls of 1 anyway if you're within I believe it was wholly within 8 inches of another Khorne Slaves of Darkness hero. Remember I talked about it in the Allegiance ability video, so you might be getting this ability anyway, so definitely go with the Chaos Rune Shields. Right, again, the last ability is Legions of Chaos, so you can reroll save rolls of 1 for this unit if it contains 20 or more models. So I have mentioned this before, and like saying, guys, so this unit, if you've got 20 or more of them in a unit, they've got 4 up save rerolling ones. If you're taking them in a corn army, there's a prayer that gives them +1 to save, so can, you know, easily be a 4 up save rerolling ones, and then like even be like a 3 up save rerolling ones. And if they're in cover on top of that, you know, the perfect storm scenario could be a 2 up save rerolling ones, but you know, won't look too much into that because that's going to be pretty hard to get off, but still good anyway. And then going into the keywords, they've got Chaos Mortals, Slaves of Darkness, and Chaos Warriors. The important thing there obviously is Immortals and the Slaves of Darkness. Okay, and then moving on to our next unit, which is a step up from the Chaos Warriors, and this is the Chaos Chosen. So the Chaos Chosen, firstly, the important thing to mention is what they are in the game. So they're going to cost you 140 points for 5 models, and that's the minimum size unit you can take them in, unit of 5, and the maximum size is a unit of 20, and you will not get a discount if you take them in a max size unit of 20. So something important to remember there. And they are a other unit role, so they fill no battle line slot. But let's see what they are a bit like in the lore. So it says, amongst the ranks of Chaos Western hordes are those who have felt the eye of the gods upon them, known simply as Chosen. These ironclad slaughterers are from the inner circle of a lord's warband. Every head claimed by their great axe is met with a roar of bloodlust from those warriors nearby, for they too would become the chosen of the gods. So they're basically, you know, like the step of the Chaos Warriors, you know, a step up from them. They're essentially the hardened version of them. You know, the more experienced, the more veterans. Because of this, they've been looked upon by the gods, hence what makes them chosen, and it's something that all the other warriors of Chaos all aspire to. Okay, so and then looking what they're like with their rules, they've got a 5-inch movement, a 4+ save, a bravery 7 and 2 wounds. So looking at that straight away, it's exactly the same as the Chaos Warriors, apart from they've got 7 bravery, just to represent they are, you know, the more experienced, the more sort of elite and veteran of the Chaos Warriors essentially. And then looking at the description of the unit, so it says a unit of Chaos Chosen has 5 more models. Chaos Chosen wield mighty double-handed Chaos Grey Axes that can cleave a warrior in half with 1 blow. And it says the Chaos Grey Axe, so it's only 1 melee weapon. It's got a 1-inch range, it's got 3 attacks, 3 to hit, 3 to wound, -1 rend and 1 damage. So yeah, only 1 damage there. However, 3 attacks, 3 to hit, 3 to wound, -1 rend is still pretty good. That's a good attack heuristic. You know, if it was only like 2 attacks or something, then yeah, but 3 attacks is pretty good. You know, even in a unit of 5 of these guys, you know, they're easily all going to be in combat. And you know, 3 attacks times 5, you know, it's going to be 50 attack guys at -1 rend, so that's not bad really at all. And then going on to its ability, so Exalted Champion. So the leader of this unit is an Exalted Champion. An Exalted Champion makes 4 attacks rather than 3. And then it goes to the Icon Bearer. Models in this unit may be Icon Bearers. If this unit includes any Icon Bearers, add 1 to the Bravery characteristic of all its models. So then you have a Bravery of 8, which is starting looking very good. You know, it's 2 away from the top essentially. And then Skull Drummers. So models in this unit can be Skull Drummers. If the unit includes any Skull Drums, add 1 to its run and charge rolls. So I've already said why this is good, means you're guaranteed those 3-inch charges. And then the ability, so Mark of Chaos, so I've talked about this as well, means you can give them the Khorne, Zeech, Nurgle or Slaanesh model when you're setting up this unit. So that's good, they're getting that keyword, which means they can be in certain armies as well, you know, Blazing Khorne, Cyber Zeech and so on. And they can also benefit from certain abilities that need those keywords. And then they have got the Slaughter Leaders. So Chaos Chosen lead their kin in battle through excess, bloodshed and violence. If a model from this unit slays an enemy model, you can reroll failed wound rolls for Slaves to Darkness units from your army within 8 inches of this unit until the end of the phase. So important thing to remember here is that it's within 8 inches, so it's not wholly within 8 inches, so that's pretty good there. What it means is that this unit you ideally want to attack with first, because you know they are quite a high damaging unit, you know, because like I said, it's only 1 damage, you know, standardly. However, if you manage to slay an enemy model, just 1 enemy model, easily, especially if they're 1 wound, you're gonna really inspire your other Slaves of Darkness units. And reroll failed wound rolls for other Slaves of Darkness, not even reroll failed ones, means that even like a Chaos Lord or Manticore, just getting this ability from being in range can really make an impact in that combat phase. Okay, and then the next and last ability is Chaos Great Axe. If the wound roll for a Chaos Great Axe is a 6 or more, that unit inflicts a mortal wound on the target instead of normal damage. Okay, so you need to get a 6 or more, so getting hard, but if there's ways you get +1 to wound, you know, it's something to work on there. You could aim for that. I'm not sure if there is ways to do it, but you know, it's something to think about. And also something to mention is that if you've got another unit of Chaos Chosen nearby and they have slayed another enemy model, they are within 8 inches of you as well, that means that you're re-rolling those failed wound rolls, aren't you? So it's easier to get that off. And that means that because you're making quite a lot of attacks to these guys anyway, and then chance of doing mortal wounds as well just makes it that much better for going up against like Stormcast armies and armies with particularly good saves. Okay, and then the keywords, so they've got Chaos Mortals, Slaves to Darkness, and Chaos Chosen, so obviously very similar to what we've seen before, and Mortals and Slaves to Darkness is the ones worth noting. Okay, so then moving on to our next unit, which is of course the Chaos Knights. So first thing to say about the Chaos Knights is that they will be battle line if they are in a Slaves to Darkness army and got that allegiance, so that is worth noting there. So they will take up a slot of that, which is very useful. They are minimum size of units of 5 and maximum size units of 20. They cost 160 points, which might sound like a lot for a minimum size unit of 5. However, when Age of Sigmar first came out and I had a little bit of Slaves to Darkness, they were actually 200 points for 5 models, which was definitely pretty expensive then. And if you take maximum size units of 20, they do not get a discount. So just something to bear in mind there. And then looking to see what they are a little bit in the lore, so it says, those whose path to glory seems them gifted with great iron shod mounts are bound together into groups of Chaos Knights. These warriors elite have a fell reputation, and rightly so, for they ride a wall of blades and spiked armour to crash through the enemy ranks in explosion of torn flesh. Even brave men quail before the charge of these fell cavaliers. Okay, so looking at the description for the unit, it says a unit of Chaos Knights has a unit of 5 or more models. Some units wield scrolled weapons while others bear Chaos Glaives. In either case, they carry Chaos Rune Shields. They ride war steeds which slay the enemy with great sweeps of their rough-shod hooves. Okay, and then looking at their we're also looking at their wheel. We've got a 10-inch movement, we've got 4+ save, we've got bravery 7, and we've got 3 wounds. Okay, so what we're seeing there is a movement of 10, which is good. Yeah, again, cavalry, there's some cavalry, movement of 12 and 14. There's some better cavalry out there for sure. However, movement of 10 for heavily armoured knights isn't bad really at all. 4+ save, yeah, that seems to be quite a standard over the last 3 units we've looked at. Bravery 7, as good as the Chosen, so yeah, that's good, happy with that. And then 3 wounds, yep, that's definitely nice to see there, because a lot of cavalry is only 2 wounds, so it's nice to see that these guys are represented with the extra wound there. How a Chaos Knight has the same amount of wounds as a Griff Hound, I will never know. That would always be a mystery to me. But anyway, on to the melee weapons. We've got the Enscrolled weapons and the Chaos Glaives. They're the 2 that you can choose, like I said earlier. So let's look at the Enscrolled weapons first. So we've got a 1-inch range, 3 attacks, freeze to hit, force to wound, no rend, and 1 damage. And the Chaos Glaive, 1-inch range, 2 attacks, force to hit, freeze to wound, no rend, and 1 damage. And then the War Steeds Rough-shod hooves, which you will always get. So 1-inch range, 2 attacks, force to hit, force to wound, no rend, and 1 damage. Okay, so firstly, I prefer the Chaos Glaives, just because they get a charge bonus we'll get to later. And yeah, sort of talk about later. Ensure weapons are good, gets you the extra attack, and instead of having a better to win characteristic, you've got a better to hit characteristic. So if you don't think you'll be charging these guys, that's fair enough, but I feel like you will be charging these guys, and I'll get to the Chaos Glaives later, like I say. Okay, going through the abilities. So the Standard Bearer. So models in this unit may be Standard Bearers. If this unit includes any Standard Bearers, add 1 to the bravery of all its models. So then you're getting a bravery of 8, so that is good. And then the Doom Knight. So the leader of this unit is the Doom Knight, which is probably the most scariest name they've come up with. You can add 1 to hit rolls for a Doom Knight. Okay, so again, something to bear in mind, you're not getting an extra attack here, you're getting +1 to hit. So bear that in mind when you are attacking the Doom Knight. Roll a different coloured dice or a different type of dice, or roll the dice separately just to keep track of it. And because you can add 1 to hit rolls for the Doom Knight, that will also apply to his War Steeds, Wrath, Hood, Who's, whatever it's called, their attacks. So that's also worth bearing in mind, because then you've got 2 attacks that hit on a 3 and wound on a 4, and no rend, 1 damage. It's not bad for a horse's attacks. Okay, and then going on to the next ability, which is Hornblower. So monster unit can be Hornblowers. If this unit includes any Hornblowers, add 1 to its run and charge roll. So again, what we've seen before, good because you guarantee those 3 inch charges. And then abilities, Chaos Rune Shield. So roll a dice each time this unit suffers a mortal wound on a 5 or 6. That mortal wound is ignored, and then it's got Impaling Charge. So this unit's Chaos Glaze inflicts 2 damage rather than 1. Has a rend characteristic of -1 instead of dash if it charged in the same turn. So this is why I say go for the Chaos Glaze, just because you're going to be setting up this unit to be able to get those charge rolls in. Like I say, it can automatically charge 3 inches, so if it's 3 inches away from the enemy, don't worry about getting double 1. There's ways you can enhance its charges through command points, etc. And yeah, you want this to be a bit similar to the Chaos Chosen. They are sort of your hammer to your armor. Like I said, the Chaos Warriors will be a shield. These are your hammer to really strike at the enemy. And that's why you need to make these guys as offensive as you can. Yeah, sure, if they're not charged, if they don't charge, the enscrolled weapons are better, but you're going to get these guys to charge. You're going to bog down the enemy with your Chaos Warriors on Marauders, Assign Chaos, and then these guys are going to come in and hit them really, really hard. And then going on to the Mark of Chaos, so like I've mentioned this before, they can have the Khorne, Deech, Nurgle or Slaanesh keyword added to them when you set them up. And then they've got the Terrifying Presence, so subtract 1 from Bravery of any units within 3 inches of any Chaos Knights in the Battleshot phase. Okay, so this will be very good, because -1 to Bravery to the enemy is good, obviously. And it used to be within 3 inches of the Doomlight, but now it's 3 inches of just Chaos Knights in general, so that is good in case the Doomlight dies, so it's not in range. And remember I said, when we looked at their Allegiance abilities, for Slaves to Darkness, you can make the enemy -3 Bravery. Stick this in as well, and you can make the enemy -4 Bravery. And sure, the enemies have got ways to get buffs to their Bravery characteristic, but more than likely not to the extent of -4 Bravery. And then you could also, if you wanted to, just talk about the Bravery Bomb, you could add in a Korgoroth to your army, and then if it kills something, I believe it can make enemy units nearby a -1 Bravery. So you can make the enemy -4 Bravery, and then obviously you've got endless spells and stuff to make it even more terrifying. That's something I'd really like to work on if I was to do the army. Okay, and then looking at the keywords, they've got Chaos, Mortal, Slaves to Darkness, Chaos Knights. And then obviously the important ones there are the Mortal and Slaves to Darkness. Right then, moving on to our last unit of this video, and this is something going to be a bit bigger, and of course this is going to be the Chaos War Shrine. So this is a behemoth, and it will cost you 160 points, and they come in unit sizes of 1. And then going into a little bit of the lore of this unit. So the War Shrines of Chaos hordes are varied in construction, but all are full of splendour, for it is their role to draw the eye of the dark powers. Lumbering mutants hoist them high, the better to inspire those fighting in their shadow, and to aid the Shrine Master in calling down the blessing of the gods, so their followers can claim victory in their name. Okay, so then the description of the units. So Chaos War Shrine is a single model. A Shrine Master stands atop the War Shrine, wielding a sacrificial blade and shouting prayers to the gods, while a pair of huge mutant Shrine Bearers fight with gigantic clubbed fists. Okay, so it's movement. It's got an 8-inch movement to start with, but as it is a behemoth, it has got a damage table. So it starts with 8 inches, and then when it takes 10 plus wounds, it goes down to 4 inches, and so on. And then it's got a 4+ save, Bravery 7 and 12 wounds. So Bravery 7, yeah, not bad. There's worse Braveries for monsters. You think, well, why is it going to matter? Because of Battle Shop, there are attacks that do depend on your target's bravery. So it's worth bearing in mind with this, just in case you get attacked by a Banshee or a Terrorgeist or something along those lines. And then it's got 12 wounds, which is a standard sort of wounds amount for a monster. So it's a melee weapon. So the first one, Sacrificial Blade, it's got a 1-inch range. It's got 4 attacks, force to hit, force to win, no rend, 1 damage. And then the Club Fist, it starts with 6 attacks, but then will go down to a 1 attack when it gets to 10 plus damage it's taken, and obviously it goes down in between that. So it's got 6 attacks to start with. It's got a 4 to hit, a 3 to wound, no rend, and 2 damage. So looking at the attacks, it's alright. It's got a damage 2 attack, and then, you know, an alright one for the Sacrificial Blade. No Ren there, but that's not why you're taking it. You're not taking this thing for its damage output, you're taking it for the support it gives to your army. Okay, and then going on to the abilities, which is the all-important part, and they're quite long abilities here, so just bear with me on this one. So it is dedicated to Chaos. When you set up this model, it means that you can choose if it's Khorne, Nurgle, or Shness or Tzeentch, and it says the War Shrine has that keyword for the duration of the battle, so it's like the same that I've already told you guys about with the other units. And then moving on to the sort of important rules of this now, is the protection of the Dark Gods. Roll a dice each time a model from your army suffers a wound or mortal wound whilst within range of the War Shrine's protection of the Dark Gods ability. So just to give you a heads up, it starts with a 9-inch range and is in the damage table. It says the range of the War Shrine is shown in the damage table, like I just said, and then on a 6, that attack has been turned aside by the failed power of Chaos and is ignored. So, like I was saying, the Slaves of Darkness are probably one of the, I don't want to say the best, faction in Chaos for having good saves, because they're not, because there are some particularly special ones out there, but all general Slaves of Darkness, apart from Marauders, they're all heavily armoured, pretty good saving units. Like I was saying to you about the Chaos Warriors, with their 4-up save, rerolling ones if there's 20 more on the unit, and there are various other ways to do that. And then with their Chaos Rune Shield, it gives them a 5-up save against mortal wounds. Make them near this thing, and also the important thing to remember with this is that it's also within range of the War Shrine's ability. So it's not wholly within range, it's just within range. So that is good. And then this big odd unit of Chaos Warriors you've got, it's got a 4-up save rerolling ones. It's got a 5-up save against mortal wounds, and then it's got a 6-up save against wounds and mortal wounds. So it suddenly became so much tougher. You stick this in a Khorne army, and you put, I think it's Bronze Flesh, the prayer, which this guy is a priest, so he could do that if he was in a Khorne army. Stick that on the Chaos Warriors, and they've got a 3-up save, rerolling ones, and then 2 ward saves basically. So pretty goddamn good there. Okay, and then going into the next ability, and then this is the long one, so like I say, bear with me on this one, is Favour of the Runer's Power. So in your hero phase, the Horsemaster can pray to the Dark Gods to bless his followers with the favour of Chaos. If the War Shrine has been dedicated to a particular Chaos God, the Horsemaster instead prays to his patron for their favour. When a Horsemaster prays, pick a mortal unit within 16 inches and roll a dice. On a 3 or more, his prayer is answered and its effects takes place until your next hero phase. So Favour of Chaos. The shrine carves the symbol of Chaos into his chest, urging his followers to redouble their efforts and kill in the name of the Dark Gods. You can reroll hit rolls and wound rolls of 1 for the unit. So yeah, pretty good. And also it's just pick a mortal unit, so it means if you haven't really dedicated to any gods, or you've got various different gods, units that are dedicated to them, it means that you don't have to pick certain ones, you can just pick whatever. Then moving on to the next one, which is Favour of Khorne. So you can see the Favour of the Chaos, which is like a generic, unmarked, undivided sort of Chaos ones. And then this one is Favour of Khorne, so we're getting into the God Pacific one. So Favour of Khorne, raising that axe in a white-knuckled fist, the Horsemaster leads his kin in a howl of battle lust, urging them onwards to spill the enemy's blood. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for this unit. If you put a Khorne mortal unit, you can instead reroll failed hit rolls, and that's reroll all failed hit rolls. So again, if you're going for a Khorne Pacific army, obviously, and you're taking one of these, you're going to go for the Favour of Khorne to make you reroll failed hit rolls is very good. And then going on to the Favour of Tzeentch one, which is the Horsemaster recites a passage from a forbidden tome, and the air turns thick with magical energy that deflects fatal blows. You can reroll save rolls of 1 for the unit. If you picked a mortal Tzeentch unit instead, you can reroll all failed save rolls. So like I said, if we look at things like Chaos Warriors, they're generally going to get that reroll onto save rolls of reroll save rolls of 1, because they have got 20 more in the unit. But if you haven't got 20 more in the unit, you've got a the Sorcerer's Lord, I think it's Oracle Vision, I think it's called, ability. You can just pick on them just to give them that reroll save roll 1, and you've also got Mystic Shield. However, if you put this on them and they're a mortal Tzeentch unit, they're now rerolling all failed save rolls, so that just makes them that much more harder to deal with. And if they're in range of this, they're just going to be such a hard shield wall to try and shift. It really, I know honestly, makes them better than Liberators if they're correctly buffed, because you can make them have such a good ward save, 2 of them, and that's just something that Liberators can't really do, and not particularly easily anyway. So yeah, that's why I do really like the Chaos Warriors. And I would just keep on mentioning them every time I talk about one of these abilities, but they just stack really well as a good shield unit. It really is one of the best units that Slave Starters have. And then you've got Favour of Nurgle, so cracking a rotten head open on the altar, feasting on the viscid matters within. The Horsemaster blesses his followers' blades with foul contagion. You can reroll wound rolls of 1 for this unit. If you picked a mortal Nurgle unit, you can instead reroll failed wound rolls. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, it's very much the same as reroll failed to hit rolls with you got for the mortal core units. However, bear in mind that this is going to be particularly good if you pick a Chaos Chosen unit, because remember, if they got 6s to wound, and it's a 6+ to wound, and now they're reroll and failed wound rolls, it's just going to give them that extra bit. So in a Nurgle Slave Starters army, it's going to be quite a good one to put on your Chosen. And then Favoured of Slaanesh, so the Horsemaster casts stickly sweet incense into the shrine's brazier and lets out a sensuous cry, driving those nearby into frenzy, ecstatic bliss. You can reroll failed charge rolls and battle shock tests for the unit. If you picked a mortal Slaanesh unit, you can reroll failed charge rolls for the unit, and it does not need to take battle shock tests. Okay, so this has become a bit more interesting. My favourite Chaos God out of the 4 there is Slaanesh anyway, so I'm going to be biased here. But yeah, I do like that. Could you reroll, failed charge rolls for them, which is again, it is important, especially for Slaanesh units. In Slaanesh armies, they're probably going to be quite fast anyway, in all honesty. But also, they will definitely benefit from not having to do battle shock tests, because that can be something every army feels failed to. Even like death armies, I'm telling you from my own personal experience, even if you think, oh, I've got Bravery 10, I'm amazing, yeah, that's not going to last very long, especially when you take so many casualties. So that is good. That, and getting rerolls for those charges is good, especially if you're getting +1 to charge from all the Hornblower abilities for the Slave Starters. Yeah, so that is pretty good. My favourite is the Slaanesh one. That's just because my favourite god out of those 4 Chaos Gods is Slaanesh, so I'm going to be biased, and you're going to have to accept it. And what is important here is that it's also like Mortal Khorne unit or Mortal Nurgle unit or Mortal Zeech unit. So also that is going to be like Zeech Arcanines. There's going to be Maggot King of Nurgle. That's going to be Bloodbound. So bear in mind that's not just going to be Slave Darkness. So this could be a good ally in one of those armies. Right, and then it's keywords. So it's got Chaos Mortal, Slave Darkness, Totem, Priest, and Chaos War Shrine. So like I said, Mortal and Slave Darkness is obviously important in this army, but Totem and Priest is important as well for other armies beyond Slaves of Darkness, and Priest particularly in the Blades of Khorne army, so he can get some prayers. Right, okay, so that is the last unit I'm going to do in this video. The next Slaves of Darkness video will be about the heroes. I could go into the Slaves of Darkness heroes in this video, but I think this video has come up to 50 minutes now, so it's a nice round number to sort of like finish it without making it too big. Okay guys, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope I've mentioned a few things that you guys have found a bit interesting, or something you've already thought of maybe, and you're just good to hear other thoughts on it. And it's generally been quite enjoying going through their units, and to be honest, they're not as dire as I thought they'd be, in all honesty. Like the Chaos Warriors always knew they'd be good. Chaos Knights can be good, and especially taking Chaos Knights and you're taking those certain allegiance abilities that I mentioned before in that video, you can make the enemy minus 4 bravery and easily as well. It's not like, oh, if it triggers on this, it's like, no, just make sure things are in range and it happens. The Chaos War Shrine, I think, is generally a good unit. I think it's, if you're taking a Blades of Khorne arm, I think it's good to chuck it in that as well, particularly if you're not running demons. Yeah, and Chaos Warriors, I stand by what I say. I think they are the best shield wall that Chaos has at the moment, but apart from probably some of the Nurgle units can probably give them some run for their money. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. And then like I said, the Marauders, I was pretty surprised. Marauders, I think they're pretty good, especially for how much they cost. Yeah, I think you're getting a good unit of 20 there of models, especially with all the more abilities than I thought they would, in all honesty. So yeah, that's pretty good to see. And then yeah, that's pretty much it for these units. There's quite a variety there. You've got your numbers and your Marauders, or if you want to go straight up to Chaos Warriors, and then you've got your sort of heavy hitters in your chosen. Yeah, sure, they only damage 1, but they get 3 attacks, and they've got rend with it, haven't they? And then you've got your Chaos Knights for the real punching on the charge with their glaives. I definitely recommend taking the glaives with them. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to end the video here, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. As that does always, like I say, really help me make as many videos as I can. And the more support you guys can give me, the more content I can put out there, pretty much. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I know you guys liked the last video, so that was really happy to see that you guys are happy to see some Slaves of Darkness on the channel. I thought it would be nice to give them a bit of love, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, so that's all I have to say, guys. So remember, until next time, remember, Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.